Hello, this is Dr. Mears. Today we are going to be learning about simple interest, compound interest, and the finance app on your GDC. Your GDC is your graphical display calculator. This could be a TA84, an 84 plus, an 84 CE, which is the one I'm going to be using today. So let's do example 1. We're going to be calculating simple and compound interest and looking at the difference. The example that we're going to do, we're going to be depositing $500. We're going to get a simple interest rate of 10%. Now, this interest rate is really large. I haven't found an interest rate of 10%. Usually, it's about 0.3. But for today's lesson, a 10% interest rate is nice. It's an easier number to work with so that you could just see the difference of how the calculations take place and not necessarily worry about decimal percents and all of that. So here we go. We deposit $500. We have a simple interest of 10%. That's what we're going to do first. What we need to find out is we have to calculate how much interest would be paid at the end of each year. So here for this document, we have year 1, year 2, year 3, and then we have the total interest paid. So for simple interest, first what I want to do is I want to change this to a decimal because I am going to use my calculator. So in order to change your rate to a decimal, we're going to take 10% and we're going to divide it by 100. Percent is always out of 100. And we're going to get the decimal 0.10. So that's what we're going to be using. So in order to get 10% of 500, we're going to do 0.10 times 500. That's how you get 10%. Now, a lot of people want to move the decimal point over, and that's absolutely fine. Let me see if I could, that's better for the light. I'm sorry, it was a little bright before. So this is going to come out to be, if you multiply that in your calculator, $50. So year 1, the bank is going to pay you $50 in interest for investing your money. So now simple interest is nice because it's simple, because it stays the same. So year 2, your bank's going to pay you another $50. Staying the same. No calculation necessary. It's simple interest. Year 3, it's going to stay the same, $50. So it stays the same throughout. Now, to get the total interest paid to you, which is Part B says calculate how much interest would be paid at the end of 3 years. So we can add these up. So $150 will be paid to you at the end of 3 years. Some people, what they like to do is they also like to multiply 50 times the number of years. You could do that as well. It's still $150. Now, Part C says, calculate how much money you would have at the end of 3 years. So we invested 500, and this is an or, sorry. We invested 500. Our bank paid us $150 in interest. So we take our present value that we put into the bank, 500, and we add the interest paid, 150, to get our total amount that's in the bank. So here was our deposited amount. Here was our interest paid in total. And here is how much we have in the bank after 3 years. Sorry, forgot to move down. I was worried about running. So our deposit, our interest paid, how much we have after 3 years. Okay, let's look at compounding interest, which is exactly what it says. We're compounding the interest. So year 1, we're going to treat it just like simple interest, where we have to take 10% of 500. So 0.10 times 500 is $50. So that first year is $50, just like in simple interest. Now, year 2, we need to compound this. So year 2, what the bank is going to do, it's going to take your deposit, it's going to add the interest that it paid you, and it is going to get a new total. Then they're going to give you, for that year, 10% of that new total. So now in the second year, you're getting $55. So we're taking the deposited amount, we're adding the interest that we got paid that first year. Here's our nice new amount, and they say now we take 10% of that. So we got 55. It gets better. because year 3, what they do is now they take the 550, what you had in the bank, and they will add plus the interest that they paid you for year 2, and they will calculate your new amount. Then they will give you 10% of that for interest. And when you calculate this, you're going to see that you get 60.5. But because we're dealing in US dollars, it's really $60.50. So I'm going to add that 0 in. So year 1, they paid us 50, 10% of 500. Year 2, they paid us 55 because they added what we got paid to our deposit and recalculated. Year 3, we got $60.50 because they took what we had in the bank, added the interest in to recalculate our new value, and took 10% of that. So the total interest paid, we add these up, $50 plus $55 plus $60.50, and we're going to get the total interest of $165.5, and we're going to add on the 0 because we're dealing in US dollars. Now for part C, calculate how much money you have in the bank. So we're going to take what we deposited, the 500. We're going to add the interest paid, $165.50, and that's how much we're going to have after 3 years, $665.50. And so if we went with simple interest, we would come out with $650. If we compounded that interest every year, we would come out with $665.50. So if we took no money out and we left everything in the bank, we're going to believe that definitely compound interest is a good way to go. Okay, so this has been compound interest versus simple interest and how to calculate. Next, example number 2, comparing simple interest and compound interest using the finance app. Simple interest cannot be calculated using the finance application. It can only compound interest can be calculated using the financial application. So here we're looking at 2 different people. We're looking at Peter, who's investing Australian dollars, 2,000 of them, in a bank that offers simple interest at a rate of 3% per year. Per annum means per year. Paul invests 2,000 Australian dollars in another bank that offers 2.9% compounded annually. So first, for part A, we have to calculate how much money they each have in the bank after 10 years. Part B, we have to determine after how many years they will have at least 5,000 in their account. So let's just take a look at part A. We're just taking a look at part A. We need to calculate how much money they have in the bank after 10 years. So let's do Peter. So first, let's write down his rate that he's getting. His rate is 3%. I want to put that in a decimal, so I'm going to divide it by 100, and when I divide 3 by 100, I get 0.03. Then let's write down his present value. His present value is what he's actually putting into the bank. And we are going to be using the term present value for that deposit, what he puts in, what he originally has. We're going to be using the words present value for that, or the letters PV. So his present value right now is 2,000. And when we do it in the calculator, we're going to notice that it's going to actually be negative, but I'm going to get to that in a second. Okay, then we're going to do the time is the number of years. And the number of years is going to be represented by the letter N, and we need 10 years here, so this is 10. Okay, for simple interest, instead of going through like we did before, instead of going through year by year and adding them up at the end of those numbers of years, there's a very simple formula. What we're going to do to get simple interest, or SI, is we're going to take the rate, which is 0.03, the rate. We're going to multiply it by the deposit amount, the present value, which is going to be our present value. And then we're going to multiply it by the number of years, or N. And we're going to see that he has 600. Okay, so that's Peter. Peter comes out with $600 for interest. I'm just going to underline it so that we figure that out. Okay, next, let's look at Paul. Paul invests $2,000 in another bank that offers 2.9%. Yes, it's a lower interest rate than Peter, who has 3. However, it's compounded annually. So I'm wondering who's going to come out with more money and interest in the end. Now, let's use the GDC. It was a lot to do 3 years and compound. We had to keep recalculating. So there's a lot of room for error. The calculator is going to help us though. And so I have some terms here. N is going to be our number of years, 10. I is going to be the percent. And notice we didn't have to change it. We just simply put in whatever the percent was, 2.9, we wrote 2.9. Now the present value. Please notice the present value is negative. The reason why it's negative is because it's taken from his perspective. When he puts the money in, he is now down $200. So when you deposit money, your present value will be negative because you don't have that money anymore. You are in the negative $2,000 because you can't spend it. You deposited it into the bank. So it's negative when you deposit money. Or you invest money. It's going to be a negative value. So please, please, please be careful. It's different than here because the calculator takes it from the person's perspective putting the money in. Our PMT deals with annuity. So when you hear me talk about annuity, we are going to change this number. However, when we do not have annuity, it will always be 0. So for now, this number will be 0. This is our future value. FV, future value. Well, we don't know what our future value is, so we're going to press alpha, enter. Our per year is 1. We're just going to keep it 1 from now on. Our CY is our compounding. And so we see that it's compounded annually. So when we compound per year, annually is we just do it once. Once a year is annually. So that CY compounding per year is 1. Okay, so in your calculator, you're going to grab your calculator, you're going to turn it on. There's this button called Apps, APPS. It's right next to Math, Apps. When you press Apps, you're going to get to this menu. We want the finance, so we can simply either press the number 1 or enter, it doesn't matter. Now we need to calculate. We need this TMV solver. So again, press 1 or press enter. You will now notice that we need to fill in these numbers, the numbers exactly like we have here. So I am going to be having you write these out with the correct numbers in them before we go to our calculator. It always helps. So let's see, N is 10, enter. I is 2.9, enter. Now be careful because the present value is negative. So you have got to use this negative sign right here. Use that negative. So negative, and we're going to put 2,000 in. PMT is 0. Now future value, we want to erase this, so we're just going to press the word clear. We want to clear that out. And in order to solve this, we have to press the solve because this is a problem we want the calculator to solve. So this is in green. So what I need everybody to do is first press the green button to get to this green solve. So we're going to press alpha and then we're going to press enter. And here is our future value, $2,661.85. Oh, did we do future value? We did future value. Yep. Okay, so here's our future value. We didn't even have to worry about the interest. So in our simple interest here, we have $600. So what do we have to do with this in order to get our future value? So for this one, we have one more step to do. Our future value, we're going to take what he put in and add our interest. So our calculator did that for us, but for simple interest, we have to do it. And this is not dollars, not US dollars. So let's get the correct term. It's Australian dollars. So in our Australian dollars for simple interest, we had to remember to take our interest and add it. In Australian dollars for compound interest, it does it all for us. Isn't that nice? Okay, let's determine for part B, and if you need to pause that and review it, please do. Part B says determine after how many years they will each have at least 5,000 Australian dollars in their account. So now we need how many years. I am just going to annotate this. I'm going to read, reread, and annotate. So I read it. I'm going to reread it. After how many years, that is our N, will they each have 5,000? So this is the future value. So that's FV, future value. So first, let's do Peter. Peter, we got to do this year by year. So we need to know how much does he make per year. We know how to do that. We're going to take 0.3 times our original amount, so just our rate, times that present value, and we are going to get $60. And this is what he makes per year in interest from the bank. The reason why we need to do that is we need to know how much he needs to make an interest to get to that $5,000. So we want a future value of $5,000. Right now, he has 2,000. So let's see by subtracting how much he needs in interest. So he needs 3,000 in interest. Well, he gets paid $60 per year, and he needs 3,000. So I'm wondering how many years. What you do is we're just going to divide the Australian dollars he needs by his interest per year, 60, and we are going to come out with 50 years. We wanted to know how many 60s were there in 3,000, and we get 50. So that's 50 years. Now, Paul, we have to use the GDC. So let's write this menu down. I'm going to call this a menu. N equals I% equals PV equals PMT equals FV equals PY equals CY equals. And so I want you to write this down because first we're going to fill it in on paper. When I check your papers, I'm going to make sure that you have this written down because I need to know what you put in the calculator. Because you could say, I did it right, but I got the answer wrong. And I'm going to say, well, what did you put in? And I'm going to need to see it on your paper. Okay, so what do we have? We know that his interest rate is 2.9, so 2.9. We know that his present value is negative 2,000 because the calculator takes it from his perspective of putting money. So he doesn't have that 2,000 anymore, so it's negative 2,000. Our PMT is going to be 0 until we talk about annuity. Our future value, what is our future value? Well, we want to get that 5,000. This is going to be 1, and this is going to be 1. Okay, now be careful because don't erase in your calculator, and now we're going to do this together, on. Okay, when you turn it on, most likely you'll be brought to the same menu. Let's say that you're not, whoops, I'm just going to put a number in there. Okay, let's say you're brought to this menu. Let's just go through the steps one more time. We're going to press apps right here, apps. We need number 1, so enter. We need number 1, so enter. Okay, please notice we have numbers in there. This is blank. Don't clear this out automatically. We're going to go back to clear out the blank one at the end because your calculator won't let you move anywhere. So don't clear out this. Don't clear that yet. So let's just go through and fill in all these other numbers. So 2.9 is right, 2,000 is good, PMT is 0. We want 5,000, perfect. Our PY, P of Y is 1, and our CY is 1. Okay, so now we're going to go back up and press clear. Always do that. Always, when you need to find a future value or a number of years, always go back and press clear. Press clear should be your last step. Pressing clear should be your last or second to last step before you calculate. Okay, so we press clear, so now we're ready to get the number of years. So remember, we need to get to the green solve button, so we're going to press the green button, alpha, and then we're going to press enter, and we see it's going to be 32, let's say over 32 years. And you know what? I'm going to write the exact amount to the nearest second decimal right here. So 32.05 years. And then when I write it in a complete sentence, I'm just going to say over 32 years. Okay. If you have questions, ask me. Try this a couple times. If you get stuck, call me over. I am here to help. On to our last example for the day, because we're getting up near the 20-minute mark for this lesson, and it's a long lesson. Compounding periods. So this CY here, this means how many times we compound per year. Compound per year. So when the example says annually, we do it once. When it's semi-annually, or they say every 6 months, it's 2 times a year. Quarterly, or every 4 months, 4 times a year. And should that be no, that's right, quarterly, 4 times a year. And monthly, well, every month, we have 12 months in a year. Okay, so knowing that, let's do the rest of the examples. So we have Alexis. I love this name because from one of my favorite shows. Invest 80,000 Russian ruble in a bank. Perfect. All right, so that's our present value. If the bank offers interest at 3% per annum, remember is year, per year, compounded yearly, calculate how much money Alexis has in the bank after 6 years. So let's go through. We have a rate. We have how much, so we need her future value. We have her N, which is 6 years, and her present value, because we're compounding, is going to be a negative 80,000 because that's what she's losing. So let's write down our menu. N equals I percent equals PV equals PMT equals FV equals PY equals and CY equals. All right, so let's write our numbers in. So N, 6 years, perfect. N is number of years. I is 3. Remember, we don't have to change that. Present value, she's putting in 80,000. So from her perspective, she is now down that money. So that's why it's negative. Or PMT is 0. We're not dealing with annuity yet. Future value, that's what we're looking for. So it is going to be blank. Our PY is 1. And our CY, let's look, our compounded yearly. So our CY is also 1. Compounded yearly, also 1. So let's go to our calculator on. If you are at this menu, remember you go to apps and then you press enter, and we're brought here. Remember, the last step should be to clear out what you're looking for. So don't clear that number yet, but let's change the other ones. So this should be 6, this should be 3, this should be negative 80, and you can just simply rewrite over. I'm not clearing that future value. Do not clear that future value. It will not let you move anywhere in the calculator. It won't let you scroll down like this. You'll just be stuck there and you won't be able to get to the PY. And then the CY is 1. So now we get to go up. We're looking for future value, so we're going to clear that out. And then we're going to press alpha, enter, and there is her future value. And 9, 5, 5, 2, 4. Let's go to the second decimal. 4 ruble. That's the IB likes you to go to that second decimal, so let's go to that second decimal. You can put a comma here, but I don't believe they do that in Russia. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody is watching this from Russia. If you do put a comma there or not, you just leave a space. So there we go. Okay. Part B, if the bank offers interest at 3% per year compounded quarterly, calculate how much money she has after 6 years. So here's our rate, compounded quarterly. If we go back, quarterly is every 4 months, so 4. Calculate how much we're looking for future value, and n is going to be 6 for our number of years. So let's write down our menu again. N equals I% equals PV equals PMT equals FV equals PY equals, and I wrote way too big, CY equals, so I should have started up a little bit. All right, so number of years is 6, interest is 3, present value, remember, is negative 80,000. Our PMT is 0. We're not talking about annuity. We're not sure what our future value is, but we're going to press clear later. PY will stay 1, but we're going to change our compounding periods to 4. So in your calculator, we're going to press apps, enter, enter. So let's make sure these numbers are correct. We're not pressing future value yet because we're just going to change this to 4. So everything else lines up. That's where, let's go back and now clear that out. Second alpha, and there's our answer. So and I'm going to go again to the nearest decimal. Okay, so let's see. If she compounded once a year, it's 95,524.18. If she calculated quarterly, it's 95,713.8. Ooh, a little bit more. All right, let's see the last one. Calculate how long it takes for her original amount of money to double with an interest rate of 3%, and we're still compounding quarterly. So first, her money to double. So remember, she put 80,000 in, and we want it to double, so we're going to multiply it by 2. So we're looking for a future value of 160,000. We're compounding quarterly, so CY is 4. Our rate is 3. Let's start our menu. You see where I'm going with this. Okay. So our N is going to be, ooh, we don't know. We need how long. So let's leave that blank. Our interest rate is 3. Our present value, remember, is negative 80 because she's now down. She gave it to the bank. PMT is 0. Our future value, now we get to put a number in because we want to make it to 160,000. PY is 1, and we're doing it quarterly. So let's go to our calculator. I'm just going to go from here. Do not clear out your N. Do not clear that yet. That's last. So we're going to put 3 in, negative 80,000, PMT of 0. Now we're going to change this to 160,000. PY is 1 and CY is 4. Okay, now we're going to go back and clear that. And then we're going to press alpha, enter, 23.19 years. 23 point, I like putting it in there as well. It will take 23.19 years to double. There we go. I hope this helped. We used our finance app. This is going to definitely come in handy. Really writing the menu down, that is going to help you going through and seeing where all the numbers line up, and then it's easy to put into the calculator and do your sec alpha, enter, and you have your answer. So this has been an almost 30-minute long video. Cutting it off right now. Thank you for paying attention, and again, I hope this helped.